Turn that damn truth on!
Powered by Arkansas, for Arkansas. This is Inside Arkansas Live.
And welcome in Inside Arkansas Live here on this beautiful day here in the great state of Arkansas. I'm your host, John Neighbors, alongside Curtis Wilkerson and Andrew Ellis, and appreciate each and every one of you for making us a part of your afternoon this afternoon, as it is hump day. It's the middle of the week here on a Wednesday, and we're going to have a lot of things to talk about here today. Not only going to do some vibe checking of the chat presented by Basis Health, we'll also get into who our heavy hitters are, presented by HD Roofing and Construction. Do a little fun little dog days of summer topics. You'll see what that's all about, presented by our friends over at Freedom Boat Club of Arkansas, as well as get into all the topics that you would like to discuss. So, fellas, it's a Wednesday, getting closer to the end of the month, but how we feeling here on this afternoon?
Decent, man. Yeah, not too bad. Still feeling good. Not too bored yet with the lack of college sports going on, which is my wheelhouse. So, hanging in there. Looking forward to the weekend. Happy to be here today.
Yeah, feeling pretty good. And luckily there's, it is the summer months, but there's so much going on. NBA draft starting up tonight, MLB draft in a couple weeks. You've got transfer portal stuff going on. You've got summer ball stuff going on. You've got NBA finals wrapped up and that the victory parade going on there. Like there's still just always stuff going on and things to distract us from what plagues us most in this Razorback fan base.
Well, and it's funny because the NBA draft being tonight, which is kind of crazy if you compare it to the NFL draft where the season ends and then months later is when the draft is. But you're talking about, hey, the finals just ended like 5 seconds ago, and here we are getting the NBA draft. Talking about college sports and everything, I at least have started paying more attention to the NBA draft for the past few years because Arkansas has actually had players in it. And that's just kind of nice, something like that where there's an Arkansas connection, the NBA finals even. I know that a lot of people may not have watched it or wouldn't even care one way or the other, but seeing, two former Hogs that are in the NBA finals, like those are the things that'll drive me to some of those deals. And we'll see if NBA draft, there's any more Razorbacks taken, but it's kind of nice to at least have those connections, even when the sports aren't being played here in college and in Arkansas. There's still little things that can happen that can garner the attention, at least of a lot of Razorback fans.
Yeah, sure. Sort of, kind of. I'm looking forward to the draft tonight for sure. It kind of stunk last year. We got a little bit spoiled maybe with Eric Musselman's run there of first round picks or lottery picks, one and dones. It felt like every year we had at least a handful of names to keep an eye on. And then obviously you get into summer league and, like I heard Andrew talking about, summer ball. And I know he does a really good job of who's playing in the Cape Cod League or like all those other things. And for me, that summer league is seeing the guys get in there and mix it up. So I'm excited about that. Looking forward to seeing what the future holds for Adu Theoro. We hope that he hears his name called tonight. If he does, it means he snuck into that first round. And it kind of legitimizes everything that we talked about in the back and forth on should he come back to school? Should he go? Whatever. And it will 1000% be a hindsight conversation that I'll probably have either way on the Pot at the Palace for tomorrow morning, but it would add some legitimacy to it if he does get in that first round. And I hope that he does. And it's going to be fascinating to see what this looks like moving forward under John Calipari, because this kind of feels like the exception and not the rule. I mean, it's kind of a testament to the coaching job he did, I think, in that this is not it wasn't your typical John Calipari roster with so many, future pros and NBA talent and all these lottery picks. They're just so much more talented than everybody else. It wasn't really that at all. Even coming into the year, we were kind of like, well, if Theoro pops, he could be a back end of the first round guy. Boogie Flan's probably your next best chance. But moving forward, like if you look at some of the early 2026 mocks, this time a year from now, we might be looking at 4 or 5 guys who have a legitimate shot in there. So it's going to be a little bit down in terms of numbers this year, but moving forward, it's going to be wild, man.
One thing I think the NBA has done really well as an organization is they've made it a 12-month sport, where before, obviously, really as sports fans, up until about a decade ago, we followed sports that way, where it's like, hey, if it's in the fall, we're watching football. If it's in the, early winter, early spring or whatever, we're watching basketball, then baseball. And then it's like, we would kind of just watch them that way. The NBA was really the first sports league that I feel like mastered that, of having it be your season is from October to June or whatever, but then you have draft, then you have summer league, then you have free agency. Like some of the biggest NBA moments I can think of didn't happen during the NBA season. You know what I mean? I think of like all these big trades that have happened, all these big splashes that have happened in free agency or whatever. A lot of them happen in the offseason. And so it kind of keeps you 12 months around talking about that sport. John Calipari is also a master at that as well, where you can follow this Razorback basketball program in just the games, but there's so much going on outside of the season. And so whatever your favorite sport is, whatever your favorite team to follow, you can do it 12 months out of the year, realistically, especially when you have studs like Curtis Wilkerson breaking it all down for you literally every single day. And it's the same way with college baseball. If you're like, man, I don't want this college baseball season, I hate that it ended, like, damn, now we got to move on. Well, you don't have to. There's the draft coming up in a couple of weeks. There's Arkansas got a huge portal commit yesterday. There's summer league, like you said. And so it's the same way. And if you're that way with football, it's the same way where you can follow. I mean, our busiest football months were December and January when Arkansas did not play a single game. And then, of course, if you're super into spring football, you can follow that. If you're really into SEC Media Day, you can, it's like whatever your favorite thing is, you really can follow it 12 months out of the year. And then at Inside Arkansas, you get it all 12 months out of the year, which is really cool.
Well, and it's funny, speaking of the football thing, that's what kind of made me think about, things to talk about and kind of getting into some of the stuff today is, you can always tell about what shape your program is that you follow and everything when your off-season stuff or off the field stuff is what is most important to people and what they're most interested in, because they're trying to hope that they get better and they don't end up having this terrible season or this bad season that they had. So that's kind of pretty telling of where it's at. And, nothing's really significant going to change, or at least, we don't think so. Anything could happen, I guess. But I was started thinking about it, guys, with you make it a Remember Wednesday. You remember when it became legal or whatever for NIL and how insanely quick it just happened? Like you went from like an overnight thing where we knew the rules, you can't pay for play, blah, blah, blah. Then the ruling out there in California happened and everyone was like, oh, well, this is pretty significant. Then suddenly, bam, everybody's getting deals. It seemed like it happened so quickly. And, I think we've even referenced it here before. Some of those early deals in NIL, like a kid getting $5,000, like, holy crap, this is absurd. I mean, when does it end? Well, it ends at pretty much guys getting 10 figures, it seems like at this point. But still, because of that, it was so chaotic, and it's been pretty chaotic since. But now with the revenue share coming up here, I'm just kind of fascinated and thinking what you guys think of is when that all comes through and passes, is it going to be something where it's just, whoa, here it goes, and things are going crazy and it's changing a whole lot, and type of deals, type of things that are transparent or not transparent? Or do you think it's still going to be a lot of things behind the scenes that we really don't know about, and we're just going to have to play the assumption game of like, hey, it's all going status quo, but as far as public knowledge and any sort of interest, it's not going to change very much? Like, what do you think is actually the impact on everything there?
They're not going to make that stuff public knowledge, and I don't think it's really going to be that big of a deal, because I think all the lawsuits are really going to hold this up. It's the revenue share is one thing, and we'll see what that looks like, and every team can kind of divvy it up however they want amongst their sports, and how much will it change things for certain sports? We'll see what that looks like. But it's the NIL clearinghouse that I think is the big thing to keep an eye on here. And that's where I think all the litigation is going to happen. They're not going to get the desired effect out of that. I just don't think that's going to happen. They're trying to eliminate the power boosters, and the big, donor-based collectives or whatever that are buying rosters. They'll just go back to doing it the way they were doing it before NIL was a thing. Like, this just became a vehicle for them to do it openly and publicly. And if they're trying to create roadblocks for that now by, oh, well, you have to submit these deals through this clearinghouse, and then we'll give our recommendations, and the College Sports Commission can decide whether or not they're going to approve it. They're just going to do the deals and cut the check or whatever, and they're not going to submit it. Like, why the hell would you even submit it to the clearinghouse? So I'm going to be interested to see what the volume of deals, like NIL deals that are going to be submitted to this thing actually look like, and what the approval versus denial rate looks like. Because I remember reading that like over 70% of known deals that have been recorded or out there would have been denied based on the qualifications that they have now. So we'll see, man, what that looks like. But it is funny how quickly the NIL stuff took off, John, to your point, because it was like it became a thing, and everybody was pretty quick to like dip their toes in the water. And I think they realized real quickly that, oh, there's this is like the wild, wild west, man. Like there's no regulations here. What are they going to do? And then people are just jumping in the deep end indiscriminately. And those numbers just keep going up and up and up and up and up. And it's been absolutely nuts.
I mean, I hate to say stuff like this because it sounds like bad and it sounds like I'm ruining this little bubble of, society that we have. But in college sports, the bad guys win. Like the guys who do everything they can to play, by the rules that you give them, but also will play above those rules. And to your point, Curtis, it's like we have this, we keep having these new legislations and new ways that things are supposed to happen. And for, to an extent, yeah, those things do happen, but college sports has always operated that way. If you go back to the 60s, 70s, and 80s, the coaches that were able to kind of live in that gray area and find unique ways to acquire talent to their teams, find unique ways to do it, those are the ones that have success. And it's the same way with the new rules that we have now. There's a little bit more regulation. There's new ways we're supposed to do it. But the coaches that are going to have success are still going to be the ones who find a way to acquire talent at all costs, whether that's going through a house and going to court with some of these guys, or like you said, just kind of cutting these deals separately. You know what I mean? Like, because that's pretty much what's been happening for, as much as there's been a ton of change in NIL. I think the people and the fans and the coaches in the sport who are really waiting on, all right, something's going to change one day and we're all going to start playing by the same rules. That is a pipe dream. And it has been a pipe dream for as long as college sports have existed. That may not sound cool to you. That may sound like something as a fan, you may hear that and say, well, that kind of turns me off. I don't want to watch college athletics if that's the way it is. Well, that's the way it's always been. And I know it sucks to kind of say that part out loud, but it's like the coaches who, and again, John Calipari is an example of this. He's a Razorback, but he's been doing it forever. And I'm not saying he's a cheater, but just the guys who find ways to whatever rules you give them, they'll play by those rules, but also will find loopholes. Will also find unique ways throughout that. People like John Calipari are always going to be the ones who win in college sports. Every level, every sport, every program, like you have to have those guys who are forward thinking, are thinking, all right, whatever they tell me I'm supposed to do, I need to find a way to make this work in my own way. Those are the guys that succeed. And then you have some other guys who are kind of waiting on rules to be set in place to restrict their opponents, which may happen, may or may not. But it's like the guys who succeed in this sport are the ones who find creative ways to build their rosters, keep their programs good. And I think those, for as much as we can change the rules and say, hey, actually, you're supposed to do it this way, it's always going to be that way to an extent.
I'm going to give an example to your point real quick here, Andrew, because this is exactly why I know it's going to go back to the old way here, because given the new rules or whatever, we talk about revenue sharing and the split and how every school can disperse it however. But as it pertains to college basketball, it's a little bit different than it is for college football. Like SEC schools are going to be giving out a bulk of that money to their football programs. It's just kind of the way it works. So if you've got 20.5 million or whatever it's supposed to be, then I mean, you're probably looking at 12 to 15 million of that, maybe more, hell, going to football. Well, what about the Big East in college basketball that doesn't sponsor football? So theoretically, a place like UConn could have all that money going towards their basketball programs, and they'd be well within their rights. So they could give that much more money to the top point guard in the 2026 class or whatever. And you're telling me that these SEC schools, like John Calipari or hell, Nate Oates or, Todd Golden, whoever, are just going to be like, oh, shoot. I mean, we're not in the Big East, so we're not going to be able to compete here. And yeah, we could give them some NIL, but boy, if we did it through one of our boosters or whatever, they'll determine it's not worth market value. So darn, I guess we're going to have to go recruit a 4-star instead. Hell no. Ain't no way that's happening, bro. They're going to find ways to get it done for sure. That's just the way that it is. Like you said, winners win, losers lose. It's the way of life. And it's not going to change because they're trying to put some regulations in.
Well, there's two balls and chains that have been basically hampering, I feel like, college football specifically, that has made it to where you have these types of approaches. And, as you said, Andrew, which I think is the right way of putting it, the bad guys winning, is because with college football, it's connected to two things and has been that has really hindered it in a lot of the decisions. One has been bowl games, because bowl games is what's kept the playoffs from expanding and happening and everything because of how much money's there. And the other thing is being connected to higher education. Like if none of these things would be an issue at all if it wasn't put into the same place of being with higher education, being with universities. And so it has just made it to where it's been difficult because it makes so much money. and people make so much money on it. But if you limit it, people are going to find ways around it. And, it's not like the NFL or any other pro league where it has set rules in place and it's all under one thing. It's like, well, who actually has the power? Well, the NCAA doesn't really have the power. Conferences have the power, it seems like, but the conferences have the power because of the television rights and the ratings and the money. I mean, it just is it's crazy how many different outlets and how many different ways that people have kind of, taken this and going to find a way. Because that was my favorite thing that people would always say, man, was just, once revenue sharing gets in here, it's going to do this, it's going to change that. And I'm like, you really think John Calipari is going to just tell John Tyson, hey, Johnny T, appreciate your money, man, but we're good now. You can just keep your dimes and nickels and give some raises, get you something nice, get you a new car there, get you a new plane. So I was like, I just don't see that happening. And I think people are going to continue to be kind of the same way, which is why it's really fascinating for here at Arkansas, seeing Cal. If it wasn't for Cal and all of that, man, it'd be really interesting to see if he wasn't the coach here, like what this would look like. I mean, obviously the wins and losses and depending on, but if there wasn't that strong relationship with John Tyson, if there wasn't that type of money and financial setup, how could it be disastrous and everything too? So that's where I think people really should understand, because I agree. I don't think it's going to change much publicly, but I do believe that you're still going to see similar stuff of people cutting corners and taking shortcuts and trying to find ways to get the best team possible out there.
Yeah, shoot, man. To answer your question about like, what if it wasn't John Calipari or whatever, they better hope they hired Chris Beard or Will Wade. You know what I mean? Because with the way some of that was going down with Eric Musselman, and some of that was to his own, detriment there with some relationships and stuff, but they wouldn't have been swimming in the NIL dough as it stood at the time. And, given the way things are changing, I don't know how much extra he would have been getting on top, or how willing, some of those folks would have been doing to going through those back channels again to get deals done. So it would have definitely been interesting to see who they would have hired. Luckily, we don't have to think about that. So we're good to go, at least for the foreseeable future here.
Well, and I will say, like, I know that the what we're laying out makes it really sound like college sports really is just going to be a race to see who's the richest, and it really kind of will be always. But it's always kind of been that way. It's not like Michigan and Notre Dame haven't always been Michigan and Notre Dame, and Bama hasn't always been Bama. Like, college sports is kind of founded upon that idea that like some of these programs are a little bit better than others. There are still going to be other factors. Like, you still have to, go out there and get a roster that fits. You still have to coach the players. You still have to develop the players. You still have to do all these things. But I feel like that money is like a prerequisite just to get you in the game, just to give you a chance, at least at competing on a national elite, championship level. And so we'll see if, in various sports, if Arkansas is able to do that. They found a way to do that in pretty much every sport but football. So we'll see if that's going to change or if that's always going to be the case. I don't know. But I also want people to understand that like all the money aspect is always going to be a conversation, but like you still are going to have to go out there and coach your team and manage these egos, manage these things, because we've seen a lot of that in college sports as well, and that's not going away. There's not just going to be a year where the players are like, you know what, we're no longer sitting out. We're no longer going to quit the team because of this. Like we saw a guy leave a 4-0 team last year, starting quarterback because he didn't like his deal. That kind of stuff's always going to be a factor as well. And so I think if you're a college sports purist who like hates this new era, hates this new thing, what you need to be doing is hoping that there's more examples of like Ole Miss football last year where they pour in all this money and it doesn't work out. And we'll see how that's going to play out. But usually if you're going to put in $20 million for a team and it doesn't work out, it's probably going to be because you lost to some other teams who also put in a ton of money.
Well, and I don't know if you guys felt the same way when NIL started, but I was so excited about it as a Razorback fan because in football specifically, I felt like this was Arkansas's best chance to get closer, get closer to the Bamas, get closer to the LSUs, get closer to the Georgias. Not saying they would get there, but under the old type of format, it just, you knew as Arkansas fans in football, you were going to need a lot of things to go your way. You're going to need a Darren McFadden to come out of this state, a Matt Jones come out of this state. You knew you were going to have Warren keep producing wide receivers all at the same time. You were going to have certain things go your way. And I felt like NIL was the perfect opportunity for a place like Arkansas to be like, all right, now it's not about, oh, well, the in-state talent as much, or about the no one knows where Fayetteville's at, and no, it's more about money. And if you got the money, you can get them. You can get them. And I was really hoping Arkansas would be that in football, because listen, basketball, baseball, that thing, we all know that Arkansas is good enough and a good enough program to compete for national championships in all those sports. But I was just really hoping football would be that. And that's what's, I think, the most disappointing thing about Arkansas right now in football is it just felt like there was an opportunity there to really establish yourselves as being almost like, no, if it was Pittman or whoever it was, but just from the NIL perspective, I felt like that was a great opportunity to kind of lessen the gap between you and the big major teams. And now where it stands, it just feels like you're further away from every other team too, which is scary. I think it's a scary thing for Razorback fans kind of looking at it of, we love our football team, we want them to do well, but we feel like we are so behind, maybe not wins and losses as much, but in the money situation.
Yeah. And to me, that's what kind of, raises the brow, or, puts up the red flags or the skepticism. Yeah, like when we've heard Sam talk about, hey, we really need this revenue sharing, that's going to close the gap, saying all the same things, because that's exactly what we were hoping NIL would do. And to your point, John, maybe it had the opposite effect. And then now we've got this revenue sharing thing coming in hopes that it would do the same. And it's like, well, why would this be any different? And at least the early returns that we have to go off suggest that maybe that hasn't been the case yet in terms of closing the gap the way that they were hoping, or maybe there's some things that they're trying to work through elsewhere to close other gaps. But yeah, I don't know, man. I know a lot of people get frustrated. They're like, well, how can you have it for basketball and baseball, but you don't have it for football? And I think it's just the scale of it, the scale of it, the magnitude of it. And yeah, it matters who's in charge and, the momentum of the program and all those things, but there's just a huge difference. And, being able to afford at this point, putting together a championship caliber or college football playoff caliber SEC football program compared to what you have to do to get there in some of these other sports. And, got a ways to go to get to where they want to be.
So I'm reluctant to make this next point, because what I'm going to have to do to make this point is I'm going to have to give Shane Beamer, the head coach of South Carolina, a lot of credit, which is something I really don't want to do. I don't like the man, but I must do it. So another thing that I think people are missing here is that perception is reality, and there is a lot of lying that happens in college sports, and that is another thing that is fundamental. Curtis, you were a recruiter back in the day. I know you had to look some kids in the eye and say, listen, dude, we love you at the 2 guard. You could play 38 minutes a game, dude. You're never coming off the floor. And then that kid gets to campus, and then actually he's your 9th man, and he's got to work his way up. And you kind of there's an element of just kind of, it's all a charade a little bit. I think the same goes for this money aspect. Now, of course, you do have to pay these guys at some point, and so those conversations, you have to be pretty savvy to navigate that. But I look at South Carolina's football roster last year, and from a talent standpoint, not terribly dissimilar from Arkansas. There's been studies and estimates that show how much each team put into their football program. Arkansas actually spent more money on their roster last year than South Carolina. Now, they also played a different schedule. There's other factors. You got to develop the talent, blah, blah, blah. All that's fine and dandy. But South Carolina had an awesome football season last year. And, you talk about we feel like we're so far away from our competitors. South Carolina did not feel that way. In fact, they beat their biggest competitor in Clemson. Like, they feel like, hey, we're actually in this game and we can compete in this game, despite the fact that they spent less on their money on their roster than Arkansas did. And so again, that's a product of good coaching, good culture, all those things. And I think it's going to be important for coaches like Sam Pittman and programs like Arkansas, who maybe aren't always going to have that edge monetarily, to still give that perception that you're not poor. You're not, playing second fiddle, that you can compete at this high level. And again, perception is reality at the end of the day. I think it was Lord Varys in Game of Thrones, John, that said, power is where men think power lies. It's all kind of an illusion. And I understand you got to play the games, and there is actual money involved here. But I think there's something to be said about how you brand yourself as a program, how you tell yourself to the nation what you are. And I think there's a lot of times where Arkansas has gotten in their own way because they make it abundantly clear, we ain't got the money. When Luke Haas comes to me and asks for money, we just straight up tell him we don't have money. Go to Ole Miss. They have money. And that's dangerous. And that's where you start kind of losing it. And then all of a sudden now nationally, everyone thinks, hey, Arkansas's poor. If you want good players, just take them from Arkansas. They can't pay them. And now it just kind of furthers that narrative. And then your head coach goes out publicly and kind of furthers it himself. Whereas you see these other coaches that are at other programs, that, maybe they have more money, maybe they don't, but they don't speak that way. They don't say, well, hopefully they change them because if we're playing by the current rules, I'm just not going to be able to compete. And I think that's valuable. And I think there's something to be said about the way you market yourself to your own players, which is how South Carolina is able to keep their $1 million quarterback. And they had to pay a lot of money to get him. But according to a lot of people, and by the way, I'm not just talking about the random guy in the bar, I saw it reported nationally that Lenora Sellers turned down like $6 million from some other schools. It's like there's something to that. And I'm not saying it happened just because Shane Beamer lied to him and whatever, but I do think there's something powerful into kind of putting that message out there to the public and to your own players that you don't have to go anywhere else to compete at a national level. And right now, Arkansas football just doesn't have that perception.
Well, I think, we're using a lot of quotes, but I think one of a guy that we're going to talk about here in a little bit, the great Nolan Richardson, said, perception's the key to everything. And I agree. There'll probably be an article written about me here soon about me pining for lies, but I'm the same way. Like, lie to me, lie to everybody, even if it's not true. Just make it. I don't look at Kentucky. I don't look at Razorback basketball or baseball or softball or track or gymnastics and be like, "Ooh, that's broke program. They're broke." And a lot of that may be because they're not. Maybe they got the funding for it, but it, like you said, it's the perception of it. Because the only two sports guys that I look at Arkansas that seems to have this problem was, of course, football. Like women's basketball is kind of the same thing. I know that they got a new coach and all of that, and it's not as big of a deal because it's not a huge revenue generating sport or anything like that. But that's what I've always felt like. There's like islands of sports at Arkansas. It's not a collective group. It's like, well, this basketball program's got Tyson and Dave Van Horn's. He's got his supporters of old money that helps him out, and then track is track, and then you got Courtney Deifel, who's really done a good job. It's about marketing. It's about relationships. It's about knowing people. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. It's knowing people. And John Calipari knowing John Tyson, Dave Van Horn knowing his people. It's the relationships that you have with the big donors and the boosters, and that's where I feel like there's just a disconnect where there hasn't been that. There hasn't been those. I hate to bring him up because it's so different now, but like Frank Broyles, could make phone calls just anytime. Hey, I need this. He just had that power. He could run for governor, but you got to be able to have that at a place like Arkansas, having those strong relationships with big money makers, because they're going to be the difference in your program being average or incredible. So it just seems like that's been missing for a while.
Started talking about them Frank Broyles phone calls, and I started reminiscing about Bob Holt's stories about Frank and his Frank Broyles voice.
The George accent, man.
Yeah, some old classics there, man. Yeah, he would definitely be on the horn for sure.
Oh yeah. And it's again, it's fascinating stuff, folks. But we'll see when it happens with revenue share. I think, like you said, Curtis, the clearinghouse is going to be the funny thing, because I'm like, yeah, right. I think Ross Dellinger put up like a screenshot of what the website or whatever will look like as far as the form. I'm like, it literally looks like you're renewing your tags for like at the DMV. Like, it's just like, okay, here's the amount, and here's what's notes. Okay, make sure you sign off on this. I'm like, it's one of those things that's like going to be like, okay, make sure that you're not a robot and you got to check the box and everything. Like, is it going to be that ridiculous? Maybe so, but it's going to be fun to see how it all plays out. But we'll get to your chats, folks. I know a lot of people are chiming in. We appreciate it. And it's, of course, in part and thanks to our friends over at Basis Health, where they're changing the way healthcare is delivered by providing that mobile medical visit to the comfort of your very own home. A doctor will come to your home for urgent care, primary care, IV hydration, and so much more. Basis Health, they are here for you when and where you need them the most. You can learn more at basishealth.org today, or you can check out that QR code at the top right corner of the screen. All right, so getting to a few of your chats. I love this guy, Raining Threes. I'm not sure we've had him on before, but thank you for the super chats. He's like $1 for each baseball win next year, 52. Okay, love that, Raining Threes. He also says $32 for super chat, $1 for each basketball win next season. Thank you so much. I would love that too. And then we also do appreciate the $5, $1 for each football win this season. So
how many games are the Los Angeles Dodgers going to win this year? Raining Threes.
Yeah. How many are the I guess the AL total going to win here?
How many wins does Joe Pa have in football?
Ratting it up, man. So no, appreciate you, Raining Threes, though. That was pretty awesome too.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. Thank you so much for that. Let's see. Also, Heartbroken Hawk says Arkansas has plenty of money. Our wealthy class is just too smart to give it to Pittman. we need a coach people believe in enough to give money to. Well, that's the whole like chicken or the egg deal, where are people willing to give money because they believe in the coach and that's why they're not giving money because they don't believe in the coach, or is it because it's just not set up this way? Because I'll say this. I think that there are people that would be willing to give money, major money, to Sam Pittman in the football program. Maybe not like right this instant, but would have here recently. I just don't think that they were maybe sought out, discussed, brought in, and talked to maybe as like they should have been. So I think that there was just a lack of communication and a direct line there. That's my opinion on it, though.
I also just I hate to make it where it's like we're almost putting that now in the job description of these coaches of like you have to go out there and fundraise, but you kind of do. Like, especially like with the game, I would love to like sit here and play make believe and be like, well, that's not really part of it. That's not the coach's job. It kind of is the coach's job. And I'm not putting it 100% on Sam Pittman, but I think William also followed up with another comment similar that says big money doesn't spend on what they think is a lost cause. If the donors don't believe Sam is a long-term solution, they aren't going to pour into the program until he's gone. And to your point, John, it's like, were those conversations even had? You know, did he go to them and say, hey, how can we make something work? And they were like, hey, we don't believe in you. Or was there a conversation? Like, is there like a, you know, and look, these are billionaires that are going to spend their money however they want to spend. And there are actually, weirdly enough, a lot of billionaires around the state of Arkansas for whatever reason, or at least adjacently connected to the program. What does that look like? I don't know. But I do think there's absolutely something to the rich people in the state of Arkansas being like, is now really the time to push all our chips to the front?
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't think so either. And I always bring up the point that billionaires didn't become billionaires by being done with their money. But it is kind of frustrating, though, when you see, what was it, like the Waltons that gave money to Missouri? And you're just like, come on, man. Like, even if it's, I get it, they went to school there and all that, but come on. That's just a bad look. That'd be like Frank Broyles' grandkids just like giving money to Missouri. Like, oh, come on, man. Don't do that. Like, you're going to do it in private. Don't let me know about it. But still, I get it, because even Reigning Threes followed up with this also, too. He says, we have multiple billionaires who give nothing to Arkansas athletics. It is their money, but no other team could be that unlucky except the Hogs. I don't think it's unlucky. It's just, again, it's a matter of those relationships that you have. Freaking Bud Walton Arena. You hear Walton. You know why Bud Walton got built? Does anyone know the story of this? Because Frank wanted a new arena for Nolan Richardson. The university would not give him the funding for it. So he went over because of his friendship with Bud Walton and said, hey, I need $33 million. And he's like, well, what's in it for me? He's like, I'm going to put your name on it. Done. Wow. Quickly how that happened. So again, it's just about the relationships you have. Who you know, not what you know. Let's see. Also, Jeff was saying in-state talent really means nothing nowadays because money talks and those athletes will go wherever the greatest deal. If they do come, it isn't guaranteed they will stay either.
So here's one thing. One, like, in-state talent matters as much as you let it matter. Like, if you build your roster through only in-state talent, then yeah, that in-state talent's going to matter. It better be good talent. But of course, if you're a program like Arkansas, you can't build an entire roster on just in-state kids. But at the same time, you should be getting the in-state kids that are good. You know what I mean? In Arkansas, and again, you mentioned the money. I don't think it took a ton of money for that top kid to go to Oklahoma State. You know what I mean? That like random top 300 4-star or whatever. Arkansas doesn't get even the good players in their state. But so I do agree, big picture, that in-state talent isn't the end-all be-all. It maybe was a while back, but I don't know if that's a good enough reason to like just not recruit the good players in your own state or not be able to land those guys. And I don't think they left because of money.
It would be one thing if they were getting better talent or equal talent elsewhere, which they're not right now. So, you know, in-state, out-of-state, out-of-country, different planet. How about just talent?
I mean,
if Bama comes in and takes your top player from the state, why don't you just go to Texas or Oklahoma or wherever, like go find that replacement? And again, I just feel like Arkansas has a lot of reasons for why they aren't going to bring in talent and why they're not going to have a good roster. And other teams just don't seem to play by those same rules.
Yeah. Well, and also I could go on a rant about this, but I think that the idea of, just like the in-state kids, this was something that I've always got frustrated by when some people would be like, and of course, because it has something to do with Houston, I'm sure. But I think it was when Bielema was here, or maybe even Petrino. It's like, you just need to go get those 3 stars in Arkansas those low 3 stars, they just don't get the pub. They're better. They love the Hogs. They're going to give you more. They're going to get on that field because, Houston Nutt had Jason Peters, and Houston Nutt had Jamal Anderson and all these guys. It's like, okay, but again, I'm with you, Curtis. Just get talent. I don't care. Like some of the best players, I know you got the Darren McFadden's and the Corliss Williamsons and everything, but a lot of the best players did not come from Arkansas. I mean, you think back to the original triplets, or not the original, but the triplets of Nolan Richardson's days. Todd Daly, Mayberry, and Oliver Miller. None of them from Arkansas. Did you love them? You should. Scotty Thurman, the guy that hit that 3, not from Arkansas. Football-wise, I mean, for crying out loud, you had so many players that were really, really talented, really good that weren't from Arkansas. So I just don't think that that's something you just got to always have. And if you're struggling in the top program or talent, just be man, you just need to go down there to Ryzen and get you one of them 2 stars, and they'll love the Hogs and play better. I don't buy into that sentiment. I want the best talent, no matter the sport.
It's also, we're wondering how much like revenue share could change things for Arkansas or whatever. And it's just now going into effect. So the only thing you can look at right now is like this current recruiting class that they're putting together. And I mean, on one hand, you look at it and you see 21 3 stars out of 24 prospect, or like whatever the hell it is. And you're like, well, what does that really mean? Like, it doesn't seem like it's that great. But on the other hand, you also have to consider the situation that the staff is in and their approach. Like, how much are you really trying to dedicate to a high school class that you would hope to be able to develop, and they're contributing for you in year 2 or 3 or beyond, when you don't even know if the next year is guaranteed. So I don't know how long it's going to be before we can really get a full measure of the return here. Maybe after the next portal season or something. It's just it's a tough situation right now. Honestly, this program finds itself in now. A lot of it's self-inflicted, and decisions along the way got you to this point. I get it, but it might be a little while before we really see if this is having the desired impact or not. And if you're just looking on the surface at it and trying to determine it now, the answer is probably no.
I think it's funny because there's like literally 1,000 different things that add up to whether or not your football program is good. There's in-state recruiting, there's transfer portal recruiting, there's retention, there's development, is your quarterback good? Is your O-line good? All these different positions, all these different coaches, all these different factors. But we always do, as fans, break it down to 1 or 2 things. Oh, we went 5-7. Well, it's just because we lost our quarterback. Well, it's just because, we didn't have a good in-state class. And so to your point, Curtis, you're kind of looking at this high school recruiting class and you're like, okay, not great. Not necessarily moving the needle here. Fine. Maybe that's the coaching staff's plan. And I think we've all talked about that high school recruiting may not be the end all be all it used to be. Okay. So if you're going to have a mediocre high school class, you got to make up for it with a transfer class. Well, then you look at Arkansas's transfer class from this past year, kind of mediocre as well. Well, then you're okay. All right. Well, what did you retain the roster? You can make up for it in different areas because there's there's 1,000 different things affecting it. You don't have to be great in all of them. It doesn't have to go your way in everyone. But if you're not going to be good in these one specific areas, you got to make up for it on the other end. And so I think Razorback fans, if you're just kind of looking around, you're adding it all up and you're like, damn, I don't know if we're overcompensating in any one single area. Like, basically, we're just running it back with, hey, our quarterback that threw 12 touchdowns last year, he's going to have to carry us. And that's kind of where you're at. And so I think when you look at the program, you look at high in-state recruiting, not great, but is that the end of the world? No. Your transfer class, well, it's kind of mediocre. Is that the end of the world? No. But when you add it all together, it kind of is the end of the world.
Yeah. You can overcome a lot if you're really good at one thing. I look at it just in the ways of sports of, if you're somebody who has an elite defense but a terrible offense, like that you can overcome some of that. Like, it doesn't make it easy, but you can overcome. But if you're not good or elite in anything, if you're a master of many things but you're a man of nothing or something like that? I don't know, but sounded good. But something like that, I'm sure is one of the cases too. But we'll continue to get to your chats, folks, as I know we'll have some other things to talk about today, but I want to remind everybody that we're brought to you by our friends over at Radiant Elements Medical Spa, where you're needing some relaxation. I know you are, because it's summertime. You've been working hard. Some of you have been outside working hard, and it's been tough. It's been really tough for you. Well, don't worry about it, because you can get a deep tissue sports massage with infrared sauna that'll help you bounce back faster and also stay in the game. And it's what winners do. They get that self-care. It makes them feel so much better, and you're going to feel great whenever you choose Radiant Elements Medical Spa. And you can check them out today, and they have a great deal where if you scan that QR code right there at the top right corner of the screen, you get 15% off your first service. 15% off. They'll get you in. It's one of the best massages you'll ever get. You'll come out feeling like a whole new person in all the best of ways. So you can check them out at the Weddington Plaza, and you can book an appointment online with that QR code. It's Radiant Elements Medical Spa, self-care for everyone. All right. Some other chats too that we want to bring up. Like this one from Ty Langston. He said, I don't buy that, John. If you want to give and support a program, you don't wait for an invitation. No, you do. Because guess what? Billionaires have ego. And what do egos need to have done to them? Stroked. They want to be desired. They want to be wanted. And so if you are a billionaire, you want your ego stroked. You want someone to come to you being like, like almost like Tiny Tim down there in the Christmas Carol. Everybody, please, just anything. Oh, I guess I'll have to bail you out again. All right. So, I don't think billionaires just going on back, man, I can't wait to give my money away. Who am I going to give it to? It's like, no, they like to have their ego stroked a little bit. So
that's the thing is billionaires don't get to be billionaires by just handing money away to whoever, like just to random people. How else do you explain the John Tyson situation? Why do you think he just randomly one day woke up and was like, you know what? I'd really like to give a lot of money to Arkansas basketball. It's because he had something that he believed in, someone that he believed in, someone that he knew, someone that he had a relationship with, that he was like, you know what? This might be, and I'm sure he was given money before, but it's like there definitely are levels to these guys, and these donations don't just come out of left field. It's not like these billionaires wake up one day and they're like, you know what? I love the pig. Let me just give him $10 million. It's like usually there's a conversation. Usually there's something that changes that makes those guys think, you know what, maybe this is worth investing into. And maybe that can happen with Sam Pittman as your head coach, but it hasn't happened, and it doesn't seem to be happening.
Also, I love the fact that, some people, I think there's a lot of fans and there's nothing wrong with it, but it's just funny. Whereas like, if I won the lottery and I just suddenly had $100 million, I'd give it to the Hogs. Yeah, because it's just, you would say that, and then you get it, you're like, I'll give a little bit to the Hogs. But then what if they came and said, hey, we need half of your money that you just won? You going to give it to them? If it guaranteed a national championship, would you give them half of your winnings if you won $100 million?
I ain't giving them nothing.
Yeah, exactly. Be like, man, unless I say what goes, and I go out and you have this coach, you have this thing, you have all that, then yeah. But just to be like giving it willy-nilly over to the admin, it's like, hey, trust us. Well, sure, here you go. Go crazy. Spending all the crackers and Eureka pizza you want. It's going to be great. Like, don't do that.
I mean, hell, nobody loves the Hog more than us. And to y'all's point, I wouldn't just hand it willy-nilly. Yeah, like I would actually want to see, like, hey, Pittman, what are you going to do with this $40 million I'm about to hand you? Like, what is it? What is the plan? I need to know.
Yeah. Also, Ty says, question is like, how much would annual naming rights be worth at Bud Walton? I wonder how much we are losing by not bidding it out because of a one-time donation.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know what that looks like. Like what the contract or like how long that's in place for or whatever. But I mean, hell, they're taking out Craigslist ads trying to sell the naming rights to Razorback Stadium. And they haven't done that yet. So,
Yeah, I see. That's the stuff that just concerns me. I'm sorry. Like that stuff, naming rights for stadium shouldn't be something that you make an announcement that we're doing this, and then a year goes by. Yeah, we're still haven't officially named anything. It's like, I don't like that.
Yeah, this hasn't worked. We've hired someone to help us sell it, and now we're gonna open it up to, more people because we weren't getting the people that we wanted. But apparently that's coming soon. So let's see what that looks like, and then we can figure out if we want to open up the Bud for naming rights. Right now we're just reseeding the Bud for more money.
Yes.
Let's see how that goes first.
That's what everybody wants. Yeah. Because I guess what it used to be just Baum Stadium, and then when it was Baum Walker, they had some name rights and people freaked out about it, but it came with money, so it worked out. But yeah, Bud Walton is the one that has not been changed. I think it might be the only facility on campus that has not been changed anyone's name or anything like that. So also a few more here because I know some other things too. Hickory Hog just says, I'm ready for the Theo Summer League games. Also, Curtis, is there a below zero chance Cal does a foreign tour this summer?
There is not a below zero chance that happens. A below zero chance doesn't exist. Yeah, we'll see what happens there. There's been some chatter about that, and I think it would be awesome. I think this is a perfect team to do it with. Timing is one thing to consider here. Like they would have to get it done and, finalized and planned and everything and actually go within the next month or so to 6 weeks to actually be able to do that, because it has to happen before classes would start. And the other part of that is things get complicated when the world is at turmoil. And so right now you're a little bit limited on where you'd be able to go to do it. So we'll see. I wouldn't rule it out, but I'm not necessarily expecting it 100% either.
All right. And also to William says, if we were being objectively fair, I think he spread the limited peanut butter pretty well. I think this roster is going to be substantially better than last year. Talking about Sam Pittman. Substantially.
So it'll be interesting.
I don't know about the objectivity in that, but
yeah, I don't know. I don't know how you could objectively say that. Listen, this roster could overachieve. I'm not saying this roster is doomed or whatever, but last year going into the season, Arkansas was number 23 nationally in team talent composite. That's what 24/7 does. We won't get that number until later in the year, closer to the season. But they usually do like a pretty good team talent composite that kind of just accounts for all these things. And again, it's subjective star ranking. Sure. I have a hard time believing Arkansas is going to be higher than 23rd. And I definitely don't think they're going to be significantly higher. I would venture to guess they're going to be closer to 28 to 30, 35, like they are in a lot of the recruiting classes. Because, I mean, look, the stars, you can say the stars don't matter, whatever. In college football, they do seem to matter. And Arkansas's roster at every level, like the freshman, sophomore, junior, senior class, there's not many guys who were big-time recruits. There's not many guys who have potential to play in the NFL. And that's kind of the only way to win in college football is to have NFL players. And I don't know if Arkansas has a ton of NFL players.
Yeah, because at least going into last season, you felt like, okay, you got Landon Jackson, and you had even Andrew Armstrong, you kind of felt pretty strongly about. But this year, I mean, I don't know when they're going to announce it. It's in just a few weeks, but sheesh, I'm wondering what the SEC Media Days, who are you even bringing? I think we have ideas, but I just don't think it's going to move the needle for a lot of people conference-wise. For Arkansas, maybe other than Jaylin Green. I assume they're taking him because they took him last year, so it makes sense for him to go again. So, hey, congrats to him. Got engaged. How about that? Summertime of love for Jaylin Green. And don't know when the wedding date is or anything like that, but got shared on social media, so just wanted to give him a shout out for that. Okay, so let's go ahead and get into who our heaviest hitters are, presented by our friends over at HD Roofing and Construction. We know storms can hit unexpectedly. Things can happen in general unexpectedly. And with our roofs, they're extremely important, but they're not things that we just look at every day and we know how good they look. We know what good shape that they're in. So let HD Roofing take care of that for you, where they give you a peace of mind with a free inspection. When you choose HD Roofing, you can rely on professionalism, top quality materials, and expert installation for all of your roofing needs. Give them a call today at 501-428-0429. That's 501-428-0429. You can also check out their website at hdarkansas.com, because when you think roofing, you think HD. All right, guys. So for our heavy hitters, I know that I have a few, but hopefully I didn't steal a bunch of them. But either way, my heavy hitter is something we saw yesterday, is simply this. That's good stuff right there with John Calipari and Nolan Richardson hanging out at Herman's. There was a video that was out yesterday of them just talking, yucking it up a little bit, and him tweeting it out. It was like a private event and everything, but just to see the warm embrace of two Hall of Fame coaches who have only won one championship apiece, according to people who have an issue with that. But I just love the fact that Cal has embraced Nolan. I love the fact that Cal is all about, that and involving him in the program, having him speak when, I guess it was before the season started, maybe during the season, when it was that fiery speech that was so cool. I just love this. And the more stuff like this, the more I just love that man, John Calipari. Because like we talked about in our group text yesterday, I don't think I've ever had someone in my life that I went from hating with a burning passion to loving with all of my heart, more so than John Calipari. So, but my heavy hitter is both of these guys, but especially Cal, for embracing and having Nolan come into the fold, and how awesome that it is.
Yeah, no, that's really good stuff, man. I've been so impressed with Cal from the moment he got to Arkansas, with how he's he's kind of embraced everything that he knows means a lot to the fan base, and his understanding of the tradition and the history of the program. And I even remember at his intro press conference how he was talking about not disrespecting the seat, not disrespecting the job, and and then the way that he's just made Nolan a part of the program and feel like he's a part of the program and welcomed him with open arms. And not only that, but just like literally almost forcing it on him, and I love that, man. I think it's really good. I'm with you, John. It's crazy how quickly things changed with how we viewed Cal. And I think it's something to consider a lot of times when we hear a lot of people who are flaming him or, dogging him or whatever on social media and everything, because the reputation that he has externally is the same one that we saw for so long, when he was at Kentucky or Memphis or wherever. But when you actually get to know the man and see what he does for the community and, kind of the way he interacts with the fan base and everything here, at least so far, he's knocked it out of the park, man. It's been really, really cool to see.
Yeah. And I mean, listen, the one thing that all the Cal haters will always say is, well, is he authentic? He just is a PR guy and he's a politician. He's doing all this. And so I guess it shouldn't be a surprise that he has crushed all these things, to your point. And listen, maybe he secretly doesn't want to do this and is only doing it because he feels he has to. I don't care. All I can go off is what I see, the interactions I have, the interactions I see him have with other people. And I haven't seen him slip up, I'm sure he has. I'm sure he's had a moment where someone came up to him and he was like, I don't want to talk to you. I'm sure that's happened. I just haven't seen it. I haven't heard anyone who's like, hey, I saw Cal the other day at so-and-so and man, he was an asshole. Like that hasn't happened to me yet. And so, yeah, I think he's done a great job. And again, I think there's just something to being a leader of a program, putting yourself out there, making statements, putting the messages out there to the world, and Cal crushes all that stuff. And I wish a lot of other coaches took notes.
Yeah. And also too, real quick, just the fact that, I tweeted this out yesterday and how cool it was. I still laugh because some Kentucky fan almost like perfectly timed. It's just like, yeah, seen that one before. All says he embraces the past of the program. And it's like
I've seen him clean up the tornadoes. I've seen him help the homeless. I've seen him feed. Yeah, I've seen him do all that. I've seen him turn water into wine too.
Yeah, and just watch. He's going to backstab you by making us want to fire him. Like you're going to want to fire him, and it's going to be a backstab.
Get used to it, John.
Get used to all that. Fine, I will. I will absolutely get used to it. But that is my heavy hitter for today. Is those guys?
My heavy hitter is. Well, there's going to be 30 of them tonight who hear their name called in the first round of the NBA draft, which is very, very cool. For whatever reason, maybe it's just, I'll tell you exactly why it is, because it's shorter. I love watching the NBA draft. It's must-see appointment television for me, even if there aren't a lot of Razorbacks involved. And I'll tune in tomorrow and watch the whole second round too. When you cover a sport so in depth, like college basketball, all these guys. And so it's cool to see where they wind up and everything, but really pumped for Adu Thero. And I really, really hope that he hears his name called tonight. It's your night, young man, like getting that first round, you deserve it. He's got a great story. He's been an incredibly hard worker and it hasn't come easy for him. Like he wasn't one of those Calipari guys who, arrived as a, 5-star McDonald's All-American. Everybody's looking at him and be a one and done lottery pick. It wasn't that at all. He was kind of one of the exceptions to the rule when it comes to Cal's recruiting, and stuck with him for a couple years and showed some promise or whatever. But when Arkansas got him, he was the athletic glue guy. He's like the versatile defender and could jump out of the gym or whatever, but people saw the potential there. And it was always, man, if he can just put it together, if he can have that breakout, this dude could really be a first-round pick. We had that breakout year, and I know it's so rewarding for him. I'm sure if you ask Cal, and and he gave his spiels about all the guys who he's had drafted, and it's a longer list than anybody else out there. Adu's going to be one that I think is going to be real near and dear to his heart, given his family ties, given everything that kid's gone through, and the way that he stuck with it for 3 years to get to this point. So, really excited for Adu. Anxious to see where he lands and hope he has a great career.
Yeah, I don't think people really understand sometimes how hard it is to be a first round pick in any sport. I know Kyler Murray did it in 2 different sports within a span of like 18 months, but like it's obviously it's hard to make it to the NBA. It's hard to make it to college. It's hard to do all these things. But like for specifically the NBA draft, and I followed the NBA draft for my entire life. Like I love it. It takes such a specific thing. Like being good at basketball is like not even in the top 30. Like you have to fit a specific physical archetype. You have to show signs of progress. You have to be young enough. And you do Thero's like right on the edge of that. It's like you have to check all these specific boxes, and you cannot have any red flags. You cannot do anything wrong. And we'll see if a Duthero is going to end up being a first-round pick. But I think the fact that he's in this conversation and that there's a decent chance we hear his name called in the first round tonight, it just tells you a lot about him and all the work he's had to put in to get there, the growth he's had to have in his game, physically, mentally, everything. And shout out to John Calipari, because I know that we do the thing with John with Calipari where like, you know, a lot of these guys like John Wall went to Cal. I don't know how much credit we can really give Cal for that. You know what I mean? Realistically, Boogie Cousins, yeah, congrats. You got him to the NBA. And I'm not saying that, you know, this is the only guy that Cal deserves credit for, but it's like, it's a little bit easier to appreciate when it's a guy who really had to grow up under John Calipari. I mean, he barely played as a freshman. Like, he was barely ready to do anything. He was a far cry from a first-round pick. To see him become a man over these last 3 years under Cal, it's really like one of the easiest stories to get behind, and really, really happy for him and happy for his family. That's awesome. Well, I have 5 heavy hitters, all of which are connected to Arkansas baseball, but one of them is a little bit separate. I saw this during the show. Gage Wood, speaking of first-round picks who have had to really grow up over the course of 3 years, Gage Wood is now going to the Men's College World Series Hall of Fame. You see that? Yeah, you like that? I didn't know what was happening with the screen. But, yeah, his the cleats he wore during that 19-strikeout no-hitter are going to the College World Series, to the Hall of Fame. Or, I guess, going to the Hall of Fame from the College World Series. I misread that tweet. The Baseball Hall of Fame, like that's another awesome thing, impossible to get into, and Gage Wood is going to be represented there. That is really cool stuff. Did y'all want to congratulate Gage Wood before I give my other 4 heavy hitters?
I mean, I don't know how you would say anything more about him than what you did, but yeah, I mean, I think it's really cool. I think it's really cool that he's done that in such a quick turnaround. And, you know, again, Arkansas kid, Batesville stand up, sweet Arkansas gal. I knew you'd be in there. She's like, congratulations, Gage. Knew it. So love it.
So I guess not everybody's allowed to abstain from these shout outs, Andrew. Is that what you're getting at here by forcing it on me and John? That's crazy. We're held to a different standard. No, I'm pumped for Gage, man. That's really, really cool. And I know it's something that's going to be exciting for him. It's like, imagine, I don't know, 30 years from now or something, and going there and being like, hey, kids, grandkids, whatever, those are my cleats. Let me tell you a story. Yeah, I mean, that's just that's awesome. And you think about the bucket list of, you know, items that baseball players could have on their agenda, from, you know, like College World Series titles or World Series or Cy Youngs or whatever the hell the accolades are. That's probably on there, you know, of a Hall of Fame, or having something in there, or having that moment that's always going to be remembered. And he has that now, and I'm really pumped that it's going to be commemorated. It's very cool.
I mean, it's not an exaggeration to say it's one of the best feats accomplished on a baseball field. It is not an exaggeration at all. And the fact that it's going to the Hall of Fame tells you, you know, that's the living representation of that. The other 4 heavy hitters I had, again, are also Arkansas baseball related. I'm sure you guys saw this. Arkansas will be sending 4 players from their next year's roster to the USA College Baseball National Team training camp / try out a little bit. I think it's like 60 or 65 players, and they narrow it down or whatever. So not all 4 of these guys are guaranteed to be on the team and, you know, travel and do all the cool stuff with them. But Gabe Gackle, Cole Gibbler, Ryder Helfrich, and Cam Kojal, ever heard of them? Pretty good. They will be going to represent Arkansas there. I think this is cool. One, it's always nice. Most years Arkansas has, you know, 1 or 2. You know, it's rare you see a team send 4 or 5 guys unless their coach. A lot of times, I remember one time Jay Johnson was the coach of the baseball national team, so the lineup was like Dylan Cruz, Tommy White, Trey Morgan. It's like, all right, come on, like, relax, dude. But for Arkansas to have 4 representatives is a big deal, and I love this for a lot of different reasons. One, just because, again, you're representing your country, you're playing baseball, you're playing against high level competition, which is always nice. But they're representing the Pig on a big stage, and you're around all of the coolest players, the best players in the country. Like, that's a place to learn, but it's also a place for those guys that are in that locker room to see and look, oh, damn, there's 4 Razorbacks here. Damn, look at all those guys. Man, look how cool those guys are over there. Man, they're hogs. Like, it kind of just adds to that allure of the Razorback program and lets people know, like, Arkansas deserves to be on these stages. Arkansas will always be on these stages. I mean, they've had hundreds of players represent them at Team USA before. I hope all 4 make the team, but I think it's going to be a cool experience for all of them. I'm especially excited for Cole Gibbler because it's mostly rising juniors that are on this team. So for Cole Gibbler to be getting that nod as a sophomore, I know Gabe Gackle was there last year, says a little bit about him as well.
Yeah, no, I think that anytime you get an honor like that, it's big time. And there's probably a lot of people that don't understand like how important that is. But yeah, no, and it just shows you that the great talent that Arkansas continues to have when you got players like that, it's always big time. So, so is that your 5 or like?
Those are my 5: Gage Wood, Gabe Gackle, Cole Gibbler, Ryder Helfrich, and Cam Kojal.
Got it. Okay, so I didn't know if you were saying 5 different topics, but okay.
Can we give a run back heavy hitter shout out to Jaylin Williams?
Yes, we should.
I was actually, yeah, I was going to do that actually, because it was the dude was living life heavily. In fact, I'll just go ahead and make that as part of our Arkansas update presented by Davis and Garrett Insurance, your independent auto owners insurance agency, securing what matters the most. This was pretty phenomenal. As you know, Oklahoma City won NBA title, and parades are always fun, and especially when there's a lot of things consumed and just having a good old time. But Jaylin Williams definitely stole the show with his celebration. So if you have kids in the car, just go ahead and mute until this video is done playing. Man,
what a vibe,
dude! The fact that he just went full Stone Cold Steve Austin makes me so happy.
Just the crowd got it right away too, man.
Oh yeah, like they were just doing the what thing, and he was having a great old time. Because I also wanted to throw this video real quick in it as part of 2, because this was great with Chet Holmgren giving a speech, because Jaylin Williams in the background was just hilarious.
Started with Clay, Sam, and Mark for believing in me enough to bring me here in the first place. Because without them, I'm never even here. All right, let me lock in. Should we put you on the mic right now? Do that. All right, yeah, all right. Don't do that. But yeah, I just got to say thank you to those 3 first. And then after that, it's all my teammates.
So just another awesome moment.
Sometimes you do just have to reset and lock in. It's okay. Did you guys see his Jay Will's Instagram, by the way? We know he doesn't have a taste for Michelob Ultra, but Don Julio speaks to him.
I did not see this. I was kind of wondering. You could tell he had been drinking in the video, so I was like, did he just acquire a taste for beer, or did he get something else? Like, what's going on? But
he got something else. Yep.
Yeah. Well, he was asking where the tequila was, so I guess somebody delivered. I guess it was Don Julio. So love to see that. But now, dude, Jaylin Williams is just that guy. Like, just the fact that his personality and his smile and everything, and the fact that he embraced Oklahoma City. Talking about, hey, they didn't think we had needed fans or anything like that, or didn't need a team. That was just good stuff. He's an easy guy to root for. One of the all-time hogs for sure. So
they need to keep him around there too. His role is very valuable to that team. Honestly, I know he didn't play much in the finals, but we talked yesterday about this. That's an important guy to keep around for chemistry and everything. And Oklahoma City is going to be in the position where, because they have so much draft capital, like all these first-round picks over the next several years, that they'll pay up to keep their big 3, and they're probably going to recycle the role players through the draft. That's how they're going to be able to afford to do it. Keep Jaylin Williams, man. Like I saw a mock draft right before we started the show that had them taking Janai Broom early in the 2nd round. No, do not do that. Get a guard, replace Caruso. I don't care. Keep Jaylin Williams there, man. I really hope that they do that long-term.
I agree. I've seen a lot of Oklahoma City fans who have been echoing a similar sentiment of like, look, and I don't know what the roster, I don't know what the future holds, but like, let's make sure it includes Jaylin Williams, the good one and the Arkansas one. We got to keep both those guys. The good news is, Curtis, I don't think Janai Broome has a long career in the National Basketball Association ahead of him, if I'm being completely frank. Although, hell, I'm sure there would have been some people that said that about Jay Will, but seriously, no, everything that we've said about him is true. Like, and you see it. Like with Jaylin Williams, we don't have to sell you guys on why he's this awesome guy. You watched him at Arkansas. You saw he always had a smile on his face. He's always laughing. He's always hyping his teammates up. And we know he was like that when he was 18, 19 years old at Arkansas. Now he's a grown man at the age of 22. So he's grown up. He's grizzled. And I think that, I think I tweeted out yesterday, when you win a title with such a young team like this, I mean, Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, what is he, 25, 26? And he's like the old man unk of the room. You know what I mean? Like, that tells you something. I think it makes it sweeter, one, for this franchise, because now they can sit there and say, hey, we might rattle off 3, 4, 5 of these, which is a dangerous game because we always assume that. But I think it's cool to see these just young guys. I mean, Chet Holmgren, what is he, 22, 21, 20 maybe? You know what I mean? It's like, these are young guys. So to see them getting to experience all that, it's pretty cool, like, just to see young players being young and having fun. I mean, Jaylin Williams is like the third time he's drank alcohol ever, and it's when he's celebrating a title. Did y'all see, actually, speaking of Jaylin Williams and alcohol, the Santa Clara Jaylin Williams was like, he told the guys have been bullying him all year, like, you got to drink. He's never drank. He drank during the celebration, had like a couple shots, and he was just like, I'm never drinking again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they said it was part of the motivation to get the ring.
He said he started dreading it. He's like, once he started realizing, he's like, oh crap, man, I'm about 5 or 6 games away. I'm gonna have to start drinking.
And I also saw, of course, the always so fun and famous the morning after an interview on Good Morning America with SGA, where he was gone, dude. He was just gone. Like, and that's the thing, is it's not like something like, oh man, you think they expected him to be hammered? No, of course they did, because that's what makes it so fun. But shout out to him for making it on time and just being a vibe, because I think everybody in that situation would be the same way, just living it up and celebrating as much as possible. So, yeah, that was really great. Let's see a few chats here too, because we'll have some other things to dive into. But let's see. Turner just like, is replacing Brent Iredale possible? Seems like he should have won Golden Spikes over Aloy. Okay, it's a trolling thing, I guess.
So, I was gonna say, I think this is like a mean comment supposed to make fun of Brent Iredale. But it is accidentally, it is a very valid question. I mean, Arkansas is going to have to replace a lot of production. He was good for Arkansas in the College World Series. Like, in his final at-bat as a Hog, he hit a huge double into left field that set up what should have been the game-winning hit for Justin Thomas. And Brent Iredale, started every game, was really good defensively. They are going to have to replace him. I've seen some people kind of doing the thing where they're like, hey, why don't, like, I saw him drop. He's like 212 on the latest prospect list, which isn't super high. He's going to be 22 years old at the time of the draft. I really don't think he's going to want to run it back and be like trying his luck. Even if there's a JUCO waiver that gives him an extra year of eligibility, I don't think he's going to be trying his luck. The good news is Arkansas had a third baseman on campus yesterday. I don't know if he's left yet, but Carlos Vasquez from Western Kentucky, who hit 366 last year, 22 doubles, really good defensively. He's a big kid too, similar kind of body type to Brent Iredale. They really like Arkansas's hammering these big infielders here lately. Nolan Souza, Vahiva Aloy, Jalen Battles, Caden Wallace, Brent Iredale. They like these big athletic guys at third base. I think Carlos Vasquez, different player than Brent Iredale, very adequate replacement. We'll see if they can get it done.
It's a baseball name.
I mean, yeah, he's from Brazil also. I don't know if Arkansas's had many Brazilian athletes outside of, some other sports.
How many more continents do they need to represent at some point? I mean,
yeah.
They're getting close to adding all 7 of them. I want to bring this comment because it just made me think of something. Barbara says, if Arkansas ever won the title in football or basketball, I would behave identically to Jaylin Williams. No one take me off cloud 9. I don't know why I just thought of this, but I remember when Arkansas beat Texas in football and they stormed the field. I remember seeing Jaylin Williams just like running out there. And my first thought was like, oh man, that's cool. That's Jaylin Williams. That's awesome. And my second thought was, dude, you better you're about to start playing basketball, man. Like, you can't be getting hurt out there because you stormed the field. That was just a very dangerous thing, but he kind of stood out a little bit there. But I thought that was always really cool for him to be storming the field. Just a true Razorback, a true Hog, all through and through. Angel just says, when we talk football, I want to drink. Okay.
Fair enough.
Yeah. Some people.
I think the longer we talk about it, the more depressed I get.
Yeah.
That's how it was today. The longer we got into that conversation, I was like, dang, man. But right away, I like the optimism was there. I was feeling good and everything. The deeper we got, I was like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know about this.
It's just the way it's going to be, unfortunately. But who knows? Maybe something positive will happen. I like this also from Hunt OZK. Says if y'all win the lottery, 20% if give 20% if Hogpen renames it to Inside Hogpen.
I think there's already a
thing,
different
isn't it?
program called Inside Hogpen, right?
Yeah, something to that extent. Probably wouldn't do that, but we'd maybe name it something cool, or maybe we wouldn't buy it at all and spend our money elsewhere and something a lot more fruitful. So could also do that. That's a possibility. Let's see. Also, Addison says, I keep hearing people say that Pittman and Juracek's fates are tied, that if things go poorly this season, both will get fired. Is there truth to that? And if so, can you explain why?
We don't know if there's truth to that or not, first of all. The second of all, it's more about if you're in a situation, especially as many times as he's doubled down on Pittman here, to where you need to be replacing a football coach, are you going to let the guy who hired him make the hire?
Yeah.
I mean, listen, that's like you said, Gers, we don't know that for sure. We're just basing our thought on it based on just how many times it's happened in the course of college football history. You rarely see an athletic director hire two different football coaches. Mm-hmm. It's just kind of the way it is. And Hunter Yurachek was in a unique spot because when he got hired, Chad Morris had just gotten hired. So he wasn't obviously responsible for the Chad Morris era. That was kind of his scapegoat. But when you hire another guy and then you have him for 6 years and you choose not to fire him, you kind of, the longer it goes out, you usually are tying yourselves to them. Like it's just very rare you see ADs outlive their head coach in football that long. Not saying it's guaranteed that Hunter Yurachek's 100% going to be fired, but it's like, I think if Sam Pittman gets fired, history would usually indicate that it's not just going to be a one-off. I don't know if Yurachek would be able to like separate himself from that situation.
Right.
Yeah, because when you go all in and put all your chips in one basket, then it's like, okay, you're kind of tied to them. Because if there was just to say, if the board of trustees or whoever was at the end of this past football season, hey, Hunter, we want to make a change, and you're like, no, like, trust me, this is this, it's good, and they're like, okay, that's kind of just a little bit of a leash that you have where it's like, I think most ADs understand you make that hire. If you cast your lot with them, you're stuck with them. And then if they end up saying, okay, it has to be fired, this is basically what ended up happening to Jeff Long. He didn't want to fire Bielema. I mean, it was other things too, but that was a big part of his. He didn't want to fire Bielema. And they're like, okay, so we'll fire you and then fire Bielema. And so, yeah, it's just part of it. I forgot the AD that was it Joe Oliva, I think, was at LSU that wanted to fire Les Miles, but then they didn't fire Les Miles, but then they ended up firing Les Miles and they fired him anyways. So it's just kind of like a complete mess. So a lot of times it happens that way. Let's see. Morgenstein just wants to know, can Souza play third?
He very much can, and he has at Arkansas. He played a little bit there. He had some starts in midweek games as a freshman there. Souza can play shortstop, and that's not an exaggeration. I've seen it with my eyes. He's played shortstop in games at Arkansas, and he's also played there in the fall and offseason. And again, does that necessarily guarantee he's going to play there? No, but he's the good thing about Souza is he's the best overall athlete on the team, and he's pretty well-rounded. So when you're building this roster, you're not sitting there being like, well, we've got Souza at second, and we can't recruit any. It's like you can kind of move around. He could play first. They've worked him out on the outfield before, too. I don't know how it went or if they really feel good about that. I haven't spoken to them, but, like, that seems like it'll be – I mean, he's such a good athlete. I think center field would make a lot of sense. So I think Souza's kind of an interesting wild card, and I think the freshman Carson Brumbaugh from Oklahoma is that same type of athlete that both guys could be in the everyday lineup at like 6 different positions, which makes it a little bit easier when you're trying to recruit the portal and find out who goes where. Souza's a guy you really don't even have to think about because he can play anywhere.
Also, William wants to know, do you think Arkansas will make a run at Gasparino?
I don't think so, especially just because as soon as he entered the portal from Texas, this is Will Gasparino, I'm assuming, everything was that he's going to go back to he's from California. Seems like he's dead set going back to the state of California. I haven't heard any buzz about him in Arkansas at all. I've heard Arkansas connected to other outfielders. It doesn't seem like that's an option. Damian Ruiz is one that I believe is visiting next week. That's a big one. There was another guy that entered the portal yesterday, Braden Dowd from USC. and Arkansas staff went ahead and followed him. All of them followed him right away, which, doesn't guarantee they're like going to make a hard run at him, but there's just been other outfielders connected to them. Another thing then to remember here is Kahio Aloy might play right field. They kind of want him to, and so Arkansas might be replacing all three outfielders, but if Justin Thomas Jr. surprises us and Kahio Aloy plays right field, all of a sudden it's like, well, now you only have one opening. So it's like, I don't know if Arkansas is going to bring in 7 transfer outfielders, but have not seen them connected to Gasparino. I don't think he's super high on their radar necessarily.
And also, Bo wants to know, what is y'all's opinion on Juracek? The only thing I really know about him is that he doesn't like revenue sharing. Actually, I think that it's more about him not liking NIL, more so than the revenue sharing, because the revenue sharing has been that. I mean, listen, everybody's got their own criticisms for coaches and everything. And I think a lot of people understand, or maybe at least I hope understand where I come from with my criticism of Juracek, but it's just felt like there has been just kind of going along with the motions a little bit. That doesn't seem like there's the passion and fire that there once was for anything, trying to get to a point of winning at a high level. And I think the lack of communication and the lack of transparency on certain things has been pretty damning and damaging. But I don't know. I just feel like he did some good things, but for the modern era of college athletics, I just don't think that he wants to do it. I think he's done a terrible job in it. And I think it has done a lot more harm than good for Arkansas. So does it mean that he's just been a disaster from the beginning? No, not at all. But you can't sit there and tell me that over the past year, things are going great and hunky-dory, especially when it comes to your biggest moneymaker in football. And I think his lack of forward thinking and his lack of understanding and aggressiveness with the NIL side of things has really put Arkansas in a bind and put them behind, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think he's done a lot of good things. Like kind of to some of the things you were saying there, John. I think he got off to a good start. I think that there has been some successes with a lot of programs in there. Like he's done some really good things to be able to hang his hat on for sure. The reluctance to embrace NIL and the changes and just kind of the landscape of college athletics there, and the open reluctance to it, I think is, if there's a downfall, I think it's been that. And that's kind of what I always go back to. And like, I'm happy where some of the programs are at the University of Arkansas, but we kind of know that the buck stops with football, and that's been a weird one and a different one. And yeah, we could talk about the communication things and all that have been a little bit interesting. Hey, you wound up getting John Calipari, but I thought the whole deal last year with the weird random podcast interview and the social media stuff from all that stuff was just kind of seemed a little bit odd to me and a little bit strange. And it's been kind of that same vibe since then, for me at least. But at the end of the day, for me, if I had to really pinpoint a particular area where I was like, yeah, this is what I'm not crazy about, it's just that reluctance there with the NIL stuff.
Yeah, I got to be honest with you. Like, as much as we've kind of been critical of Hunter Yurachek and spoken about some of the things that we aren't crazy about, I think I agree wholeheartedly with both of you guys. And the open the public admitting that you're not crazy about this new era of college football or college sports, the open admitting that you wish there would be things done that would kind of even the playing field and all that. I understand he feels that way, and he's well within his rights to feel that way. That's kind of been weird to me. There's also been some kind of weird back and forth with the fan base. You mentioned the Eric Musselman thing, the Slobber Hog thing, which, we all were cool. We love Slobber Hog, but it's like, that was kind of a weird thing. And he does victory laps a lot,
Yes.
like a lot of victory laps for a program that's not necessarily like been crushing it. But if you look at Hunter Yurachek's tenure at Arkansas, what's it been now? 8 years?
Yeah.
8 years, like something like that. I would say it's a net positive, and I think it's pretty clearly a net positive overall. One, he hired Sam Pittman, which, you could say, hey, that was a stupid thing to do. I don't think he had many options in that moment. I would have liked to see them maybe be aggressive and maybe try and pony up and get a big-name guy like Lane Kiffin. I don't know how realistic that was, but I think he was kind of had his hands tied with the football hire that he first had to make, and it's gone about as – like after 6 years, it hadn't been great, but it's like, it's at least brought stability to the program. Where he lost me, honestly, is after last season, when you kind of were not only not going to make changes, not going to enter into this new era in college football in a different, in the best, putting your best foot forward, you kind of like gaslit the fans and were like, doing a victory lap after beating Tennessee and like making people feel stupid for wanting some type of change in the football program. And I think that move is going to wind up being what unravels this whole thing. And there's a lot of other sports besides football that have done great. Basketball's been good. Baseball's been good. Gymnastics, track, softball, soccer. There's been a lot of great things, and that matters. Like, I think that's cool, and he deserves some props for that. But I think a lot of fans, it's going to be football. Like, that's the driving force. It's just the world we live in. And football, moving forward, I don't have high hopes for. And like I said, I think that's probably going to be the undoing of this whole thing. But I don't think Hunter Yurchek's an idiot. I don't think he's, like, bad at his job. I don't think he's a bad guy. Like, I think he's done a lot of good for the University of Arkansas. I think his tenure has been a positive one. But I do think there is a very clear, mark here in the last year or so, last year and a half, where things are starting to unravel. He's been openly looking for his way out, and that's kind of where we're at. And so, the end is probably closer than we'd probably realize.
Yeah. I will say, and I meant to bring this up when I was talking a minute ago, it took some balls to do what he did with Mike Anderson. And it was a hell of a hire with Muss. I know it didn't end well, but that was a hell of a hire it turned out to be. And really, I mean, it set the program back on the right trajectory to even be in a position to have a guy like John Calipari coaching it now. Now, how much was he involved in making that particular thing happen? We could debate that all day, but getting Muss in there was a good thing. But I do think you brought up a good point there at the very end about it's kind of looking for a way out. Like that's tough. When do people start turning on Muss there? Like, yeah, they started losing some games, but when it was like after every year you started hearing, well, he's trying to get the Texas job, he's trying to get this job, that job. And then all throughout that season, it was, no, he's out of here. He's going to DePaul. He's going to Washington. He's going here. He's going there. And you're just kind of like, oh, so not one of us. And I know there's been some, refuting of certain things or whatever, but and we know a lot of people too. And it sounds like there's been several jobs that he's gone after, at least allegedly there. And that never sets right with anybody. It's like when somebody transfers away in a lot of cases, immediately you're like, oh, okay, well, good riddance. See you, man. When a coach leaves or he's trying to get the hell away from you, and that doesn't happen very often at Arkansas. That's why when it happened with Muss, even though he was going to USC, even though it was bad at the time, we're like, really, dude? Like, people don't just leave. What are you doing, man? Usually either retire or you get fired. And to see him, being connected to a bunch of different jobs and everything, I think that's probably something that's been a little bit unsettling for Razorback fans too.
And also to the point with Yurchek, it goes back to what we were talking about with relationships and understanding about, having the right relationships with the right people. And I think that there's been a problem with that in fundraising. I think that there's been a problem with that and getting the money from those big donors and those big people that you should be able to, because that was one of my biggest things I never understood is like with the NIL and everything. It's like, okay, you can be against it, but you're doing it because you have to, but yet nobody even knows where Arkansas, your fans don't even know where you're standing on NIL because they're not seeing the results of positive NIL, at least in football, but you're also not asking anybody for help. It's like, you're not asking the fans really, you're not promoting the fans, you're not doing any of those things. And it just felt like, I think Yurchek maybe had it's about fit. And I just don't know if it's the fit anymore. I don't know if it's because of everything changing and the fact that, again, you have to have good relationships with certain boosters and donors. I just don't think it's that. And you said it, Curtis, you can tell when somebody wants gone, you're like, well, just move on. And it's like this marriage that it's like, okay, this isn't working anymore. You're just having to draw it out until it actually becomes official is what it feels like. It feels like everyone's just kind of waiting. All right, when are we going to separate this? When's this going to end? That's what it feels like. So I hate it. I really do. I hate it for the fans. I hate it for all intents and purposes. But, I think having that attitude and then doing the weird stuff that you mentioned too, Andrew, on top of that, it's kind of like, what is the point of all this? Like what is the point of, doing your victory laps on certain things, but then, not doing and almost like mocking and laughing about, which I'm not saying he did this personally, but it's kind of the culture that's there. but fans are concerned. There was just a lot of things that doesn't fit right, and it seems toxic. So I don't know what's going to change. I don't know when it's going to change. But as I told people, I think I even said this in the Discord, for some people who are like hoping that he gets fired and moves on. If anything's going to happen to Hunter Yurachek as far as getting fired, it's going to happen like now. I'm not saying it is, but I'm saying if it was going to, it's going to happen like in the next couple of weeks, because they're not going to hopefully not be like, we're going to wait till November and then we'll go right and make a move. It's like, you saw what happened there last time you did that, and it was a disaster. So those of you who are just hoping and praying that something happens with Yurachek, well, if it doesn't happen here in the next few weeks, it's not going to happen, at least for the rest of the year.
I was actually going to say, I think if there's something going to happen with Yurachek, it's going to happen in November. I think November, December would almost start. Like, I don't think they're going to fire him before football season. I think they're going to wait until the Sam Pittman thing blows up, and then they will do that. But I want to touch on this comment from Wyatt, because he accidentally leads me to another great point here. He says, if Hunter fired Sam, you know how much that would cost, plus the NIL pressure and a new coach, when we have two great coaches in our program. And Wyatt is not incorrect. It definitely would. I mean, you'd have to pay whatever it was, like $11 million for the buyout for Sam. You'd have to hire a new coach, which of course would cost money. You had to get a staff. You'd have to, again, deal with all these circumstances, which would not be ideal. And there's never an ideal time to fire a coach. Even if he has a $0 buyout, it's never ideal. But this kind of accidentally lets you know the mindset of the athletic department and Hunter Yurachek and a lot of people there. This what you're bringing up, Wyatt, was 1 billion% considered in the equation, and it's been considered in the equation before. Is how can we move forward by spending the least amount of money possible? And listen, that's also how business works. That's how any like profitable industry is trying to operate. Of like, hey, what's the least amount of money we can spend to make the most? Like, we want to make as much profit, and we know in the athletic department at Arkansas, that is a very sensitive subject. They are trying to cut costs every way they can. So 100% Wyatt, it would have cost a lot of money. And that's ultimately why it almost, a huge driving force of why it didn't happen. But I also think that is kind of just where we're at with Arkansas football. Is there's a lot of money to be spent. It's not going to be spent. Definitely not by this current administration. And I don't think making the program the best the program can possibly be on the field is anywhere near the top in terms of priorities. I think it is a lot of, how do we spend money? How do we not let there be a riot where people are mad at us? I don't think, I think as an athletic director, of course, your job is to do a lot of that. And Hunter Yurachek, by the way, has had to navigate that for a while. That's his biggest job priority, is making money for the athletic department. And Arkansas football made a shit ton of money last year. The attendance was great. And so I think, it's easy for him to look at it and say, actually, this is great. I don't think making Arkansas the best possible football program they can be is a priority for this current administration. And I think fans, I hate to say it, I'm not saying you have to be happy about that. I'm not saying you have to be thrilled about it, but we do have to understand that is where we're at, that Arkansas football is not going to be competing at the level you all want them to, we all want them to, and everyone wants them to, because that is not even what they are trying to do.
Yeah, I think programs and universities across the country that are in similar spots to where Arkansas is, whether it's with a football program, basketball program, or whatever, they're really in a dilemma. Like they can go one of two ways. Like you can get rid of the staff, blow it up, start over, and see if that kind of rejuvenates and kind of like injects some more enthusiasm and excitement around the program, and that can be your building block or your starting or your jumping off point. Or, and we've seen some places do this, they go, hey, you know what? Yeah, that buyout money, it is crazy. And we'd have to spend all this money to hire a new coach and a new staff and everything. Instead, let's run it back and let's take all that money and let's funnel it into NIL, and let's see if we can buy ourselves a roster and do it that way. My question is Arkansas doing that? They chose to run it back, but have they funneled? Have they done that? You got to do one or the other, but you can't do neither. And I wonder if what they're doing right now is neither, especially when you're still hearing, behind the scenes, some conversations about how much is really there and how much is this really helping and how much NIL do we really have. That's kind of where I'm at with it. I'm okay. Like I'm on board if they want to do the thing. Like I think, who the hell was like LSU with Matt McMahon. Remember they said, hey, he's really been struggling, but we're going to keep this dude and we're going to give him a bunch of NIL money and we're going to put together a better roster. Did they do that? I don't know. They spent whatever. But do we really expect different results based on that? Like if you're going to take that approach, I think you really got to spend. Like you got to be up there with the big dogs and the big boys and have the type of roster that winds up reflecting that. And I'm not saying they didn't go out and get good players and everything like that, but do we really think that that's the approach they took, or if it was kind of like you were saying, with where that priority really lands? I think it's a good point. I think it's a good question.
Yeah. And that's really where everyone's at right now, is just, I think that there's just a lack of understanding, and there's also people that just really don't know what the expectation is. Like, what's the goal? What's the trajectory? Like, what's the point? Because I'll be honest, I know we've talked about it, just because it's Sam Pittman and what we've heard. It seems like the goal for Razorback football is just to make a bowl game. Like, that's what it just feels like. It's like, make a bowl game. That's a big deal, and that's great. And that's not what anybody wants. Like, that's not what you want the goal to be overall. But I get it, though. People have their opinions on where things are at, and that's what this summer is always about, is going to be talking about these things and discussing them in full. So, but real quick, I know we'll get into our final segment here on the show, and some fun summer topic deals, because we're going to start doing some fun stuff like this. Of course, it's presented by our friends over at Freedom Boat Club of Arkansas, which I know a lot of you are trying to get out there on the lakes, but you may not have access to a boat. You may not know somebody with a boat, and that's pretty frustrating. Well, don't worry about that, because you can do all of that with Freedom Boat Club of Arkansas, where they give you access to the boats without the commitment. And this is boating that fits your lifestyle, and where they take care of the boat. They do all the maintenance on it. And it doesn't matter if it's in Greers Ferry Lake or Lake Hamilton, or even just a day on the river down there in Little Rock. Freedom Boat Club of Arkansas will help make your summer in the natural state the best one yet. So check out the website today at freedomboatclubar.com. That's freedomboatclubar.com to learn more about the benefits of joining the club today. All right. So real quick, before we get out of here, and I just want to bring up a few quick things. I just want to shout out to Michelle Wilkerson for becoming a YouTube member. Very nice of you. Thank you, Michelle.
Did her thing run out, you think? Like, she had she got the 1 or 2 month or whatever, and then had to re-up?
I guess so.
I thought it got gifted to her maybe from the previous.
If it got gifted to her, then that's for sure what happened. That it ran out, and then it was boom.
Yeah. So, but basically, what we'll do for when we close up the show, we'll just do this at the end. But I just want to ask you guys 3 questions, just randomly, dealing with sports as well as entertainment as well as food, because that's what everybody loves. And the chat can get in on this too, but just a good way to end the show here. So I want to ask you guys, first off, sports question for you. If you could witness a sporting event in history in person, which event would you want it to be?
Razorback related, it'd be the 94 title. Obviously the basketball guy would say that. I'd have to let me put a little bit more thought into big picture. Andrew, go ahead. If you have something, go ahead.
So, I mean, the 94 title game is the obvious one. I was not alive. I did not have a chance to travel to Charlotte to go see that one, but that would be a big one. And y'all are gonna be stunned to hear this, but my brain went to fights. I've only been Curtis has been with me for the one time I've attended a fight in person. Although I did get suspended from school for watching a fight on the side of the road after school, and they suspended everyone who attended it. That was BS. But there is nothing like, and I've told Curtis this before, that like I get more nervous for like big fights. If there's a big boxing match, big UFC fight, big anything, I get more nervous for that at this stage than anything else in sports. And that even includes Arkansas, and I get very nervous for that. But there's just something to like, because there's no other sporting event that can just end on a dime. You know what I mean? You're 30 seconds in, one thing, and just boom, oh, that guy's unconscious. You know what I mean? Like, there's just such an attention and anxiety. So I would have to go back in time to like maybe some of those like Mike Tyson, George Foreman type events, because I just can't imagine what that was like. But I think Conor McGregor versus Khabib Nurmagomedov, which is the #1 selling pay-per-view of all time. That was when Khabib submitted him and then jumped the cage and was throwing his mouthpiece at people and fighting people. Obviously, I would have preferred McGregor win, but like that fight, I remember watching that in college. I wish I could go back in time and be there for that, because I bet the buildup was just unbelievable.
Yeah, I was immediately thinking fights too. I saw Kingsley said Rumble in the Jungle there. I was thinking about some of those old school boxing matches, and for the exact same reasons that you were talking about, Andrew, of just how quickly things can, like one punch, 1 second, and it completely flips everything. I very, very fortunate to have experienced a World Series clincher in person with my dad when the Cardinals won in 2006. it would have been cool. Like I don't know, man.
I'll give you mine, like, because I think the '94 national championship thing is everyone's consensus for Arkansas related. But to me, the Miracle on Ice in 1980, like that would have been our United States beating Russia, the Soviets. Like, yeah, a lot of cool stuff going on there. In fact, that would be my number
Did that
one.
win the Cold War for?
Some people are saying. I think that's when Gorbachev took down the wall. It's after that.
I like that. I thought too about, maybe some Olympic moments, in American history that would have been pretty sick to go see.
Yeah. Was it
shout out to Big Lefty, who says he was in the stands for LeBron passing Kareem for the scoring title. How the hell did you end up at that one?
Yeah, that's crazy.
That's legit. That's a big time.
That was pretty legit. Yeah. I'm trying to think, if there's any like big individual achievements that I would have loved to be there for.
I mean, I think I would have loved personally to be there for when Tiger Woods won the 2018 Masters, because I cried like a baby on TV, or when he was watching on TV. So I can imagine there in person. That would have been awesome.
That's good.
Also throw in like, just like there's like moments, like Olympic moments, like when, like one of my favorite things is when Michael Phelps and the U.S. team beat the French or whatever. And it was like, here comes Lazak, the guy that went on a comeback, like stuff like that was just be cool to see him.
See, with some of those, I'm like, I was okay to watch those on TV. Like, I don't need to be in the building when they swim. You know what I mean?
Right. It's just more of like, the moment of the crowd and the energy and everything to go along with it. So, yeah, but no, hey, listen, those are some good ones. How about this one? This one's just a 3-choicer one because we're going with food. Chicken, cow, and pig. You can never eat from one of these animals again. Which one are you choosing to cut out of your life?
It's got to be the pig. Now the pig is a tough one. I'm not downplaying. All these are going to be brutal. It's got to be the pig. One, because I can spin it into I'm not eating pig because of the hogs, that kind of thing. I'm going to miss bacon. I'm going to miss a lot of things. But chicken and cow are just too essential to my daily life.
I can't argue that. I couldn't even make a compelling argument to go a different way. It would have to be pig for me. I love me some bacon now, but I could do without. I can't even imagine a life without chicken or cow. I don't know how I could do it.
My brother went through a phase where he wasn't eating. He's never eaten bacon. Like, he does not eat it. And it's based on the hogs. I don't know how strongly he's committed to it in his adult life, but I remember as a kid, like him, like refusing to eat bacon. And I'm like, I don't know how long he's kept it up.
If you had to give up chicken or cow, which would you give up?
So like now cow, we're talking about all dairy products, right? Because like
no, just
cheese.
Just I'm talking about just sorry, I should have clarified the meat.
Just like steak and ground beef.
Yeah,
I'd probably give up the cow before the chicken. I love chicken, dude.
Oh man,
almost as much as Carter Knox.
Jeez, I tell you what, guys.
Chicken, I don't know.
I'd give. I'm telling you, I'm giving up the cow. Just being honest.
Steak might be my favorite food single though. Like, I love a good steak.
I do too, but there's just something about, I don't know. There's something about the element of like just knowing how many things come from the pig that I love, like obviously like bacon, but sausage and pork and brisket and, ribs and just so many things that are so good. So, yeah, I'm all about it. So, it's a tough one though. And finally, yeah, this finally one, this is the entertainment side of things too. Just out of curiosity on y'all's opinion on this, but entertainment wise, what is the show you've watched the most episodes of in your life? One single show would you say you've watched the most episodes of?
Oh man, I'm trying to think of like the super long running. How many episodes are in Friends? I watched all of Friends.
So SpongeBob is probably the answer for me, only because like from ages like 6 to like 12, every single day I watch like 5 minimum. You know what I mean? It's like
cartoons.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, I don't even know if that counts. I see someone that says How I Met Your Mother. Where did that go? Oh, William. How I Met Your Mother is up there for me because I watched it start to finish when I was like 12. And then it was like kind of my comfort show for a while. But like a lot of my buddies in college, like I just go over to their houses or their apartments, and How I Met Your Mother would just be on. It's a good background show. I've watched a lot of episodes of that. The Office, of course, I've done that probably 3 or 4 times in total. There's some good ones up there for that.
Yeah, mine would probably be either The Office or Seinfeld. I think are probably the 2 that I've watched. But if I'm talking kids shows, yeah, like probably SpongeBob or even I was a big Rocco's Modern Life fan.
Rocco's was solid.
Yeah.
South Park is probably up there on mine too. I mean, it's been running for like
Family Guy was when I was in 8th grade, dude. All I watched was Family Guy. I love Family Guy.
Yeah. I mean, listen, there's like this kind of makes you think about all the shows that you've watched in your life, or at least all the episodes. Like, man, some are better than others. Some are just those like turn them on and let them play in the background and not even care.
I see some people that are listing like good shows, but like, have y'all watched more episodes of that? Like, how many times do you rewatch Sopranos? You know what I mean? And look, some people do rewatch it, you know, every other year or whatever, but it's like there's only like 90 episodes total, or like 75. You know what I mean? So it's like some of these shows, like SpongeBob, for example, there's 1,000, and I haven't seen all of them probably, but it's like I've just seen the quantity of them just so many times.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean that's all it comes down to, at least. So, but either way, yeah, just little enders and fun little topics to discuss through the summertime and the dog days of summer. So, well, guys, any final thoughts before we roll out here for the day?
No.
Well, I think Hunter's done a good job. I don't care what y'all say. He's going down. We're this sinking ship. We're going together. So, looking forward to this fall.
Perfectly said. So, but yes, we are going to have a lot of fun this summer. We are looking forward to the fall, but still tap in for us and with us here this summer here on Inside Arkansas. Be sure to subscribe to us here at Inside Arkansas. Check it out on our YouTube page, but also on our social media at Inside Arkansas. You can also check out our website at InsideArkansas.com for all the latest and greatest up-to-date information on all things Razorbacks. We're going to keep it going from there. That'll do it for us today. So for Andrew Ellis, as well as Curtis Wilkerson, I am John Neighbors. Same sports show, same sports channel tomorrow afternoon. Have a great rest of your day, everybody. See you then.